Welcome to this explainer. If you're tuning in today, chances are you intimately know what it feels like to be truly, deeply exhausted. You know the drill. You get your 7 or 8 hours of sleep, you chug the coffee, you force yourself to go to bed early, but by 2 p.m., your body just feels like lead. Your mind gets foggy, and literally everything takes 10 times more effort than it should. Well, I want to validate you right out of the gate here. Your exhaustion is completely real. Today, we're taking a peeling the onion approach to uncover the actual biological root causes of fatigue. We are going to look under the hood at what is physically happening inside your body when your energy battery completely drains out.
Okay, let's just dive right in. We've got a great roadmap for this explainer. We'll start by decoding everyday exhaustion, and then zoom all the way down to the microscopic cellular energy crisis. From there, we'll expose the hidden thieves draining your systemic battery, explore what happens when fatigue becomes a chronic condition, and finally, get into some highly actionable ways to actually restore your energy.
Section 1. Decoding your exhaustion, and really figuring out the difference between simply needing a rest and full-blown cellular depletion.
So we throw the word tired around a lot, right? But the words we use actually represent totally different biological states, and getting the terminology right is step one. Normal tiredness is a perfectly healthy physiological signal. It's just your body saying, hey, our energy stores are temporarily tapped out, and it usually resolves completely with one good night of sleep. Clinical fatigue, though, that is a profound, persistent loss of functional capacity. It's a physical state of true depletion that does not care how much you rest. You could literally sleep for 12 hours straight and still wake up feeling like your tank is completely empty.
And to show you just how extreme this spectrum can get, we have to talk about post-exertional malaise, or PEM. Now, this isn't just feeling a bit winded after a tough run. This is a pathological worsening of symptoms. It's a massive systemic crash following even minor physical or, frankly, mental activity. As we're going to see, PEM involves an actual physical failure of your mitochondria, your body's cellular engines, which sets the stage perfectly for the deep biology we're tackling next.
Moving to Section 2, the cellular energy crisis. Let's take a look inside the microscopic engine of your body.
We're zooming all the way down to the microscopic level now, right into the mitochondria. These are the tiny engines powering every single cell you have. Every heartbeat, every thought, every step you take depends entirely on your cells producing adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. Don't worry too much about the chemistry, but ATP hydrolysis is the literal reaction that creates the energy currency paying for your entire life. Converting nutrients and oxygen into usable ATP is an incredibly complex chain reaction, and if any part of that chain breaks down, you get a cellular energy crisis, and you feel that systemically as deep fatigue. This is where things get really fascinating. Under high-resolution electron microscopes, researchers are now actually seeing physical structural damage inside the cells of chronically fatigued patients. They're looking at the degradation of the cristae. Those are the inner folds of the mitochondrial membrane where the magic of energy conversion happens. When those structures degrade, the mitochondria get leaky and terribly inefficient. To survive, the cell panics and switches to anaerobic glycolysis. The problem? That produces way less ATP and dumps lactic acid into your system, which gives you that heavy, achy, leaden feeling that makes chronic exhaustion so miserable.
So please hear this, it is absolutely not all in your head. In fact, recent breakthroughs have pinpointed a protein called WASP-3. In severely fatigued states, your body overproduces this WASP-3 protein, and it literally blocks the formation of mitochondrial respiratory supercomplexes. It acts as a physical blockade. It starves the cells of energy, even if you have plenty of oxygen and nutrients floating around in your blood. It completely 100% validates the experience of feeling an emptiness that sleeping or eating just cannot fix.
Section 3. Hidden thieves of energy. Let's find out what's secretly draining your systemic battery.
Let's zoom back out to your bloodstream and look at the nutritional deficits that literally starve your cellular engines. Your mitochondria can't just make energy out of thin air. They need specific cofactors. Missing even one throws a wrench in the whole machine. For instance, low vitamin B12 impairs your red blood cells, causing awful brain fog and a deep physical drain. Low iron, or its storage form ferritin, ruins your oxygen delivery. That's why you might feel breathless just walking up a flight of stairs. Lacking vitamin D3 triggers muscle weakness. And if you're low on CoQ10, the final stages of your energy production just stall out, leaving you with terrible exercise recovery where everything feels impossibly hard.
Now, one of the most overlooked deficiencies of all is magnesium. Here's the thing. Your cells don't actually use raw ATP. They use MgATP, which is ATP chemically bound to magnesium. Having plenty of ATP without enough magnesium is exactly like having a wallet stuffed full of euros in a small town in Texas. The currency exists, sure, but you literally cannot spend it. Your body can't activate the energy. This is exactly why folks with low magnesium constantly feel tired, anxious, and physically tense, all at the exact same time.
Beyond just vitamins and minerals, endocrine failures act as massive systemic thieves. Think of your endocrine system as your body's metabolic thermostat. Hypothyroidism, an underactive thyroid, turns that thermostat way down, slowing the basal metabolic rate of almost every cell and causing profound sluggishness. Then you have cortisol. A dysregulated cortisol axis from chronic, ongoing stress absolutely destroys your ability to mount a proper energy response. And then there's insulin resistance. Your blood sugar might be sky high, but if the glucose can't actually enter the cells, you're in a paradoxical state of cellular starvation in the midst of plenty.
Let's move to Section 4, when fatigue becomes chronic. We're going to look specifically at ME/CFS.
We really need to look at the extreme end of systemic failure, myalgic encephalomyelitis, or chronic fatigue syndrome, commonly known as ME/CFS. This is a crushing biological reality. It's a multisystemic disease where patients have a severely restricted aerobic threshold. When they push past this microscopic limit, and I'm talking about something as minor as taking a shower or answering a few emails, their cells completely fail to produce ATP efficiently. Toxic metabolites build up rapidly, triggering autonomic instability, intense brain fog, and severe joint pain. It is a total, cascading collapse of the energy systems.
But there is some incredibly exciting news on the diagnostic front. Historically, getting an ME/CFS diagnosis was a long, agonizing process of ruling out everything else. But a landmark 2025 study just proved that new AI-based diagnostics can identify ME/CFS with 90% accuracy. They do this by looking for specific blood signatures like butyrate deficiency and very distinct immune markers. So, for the first time, we can definitively point to the biological footprint of this disease.
We're also uncovering a fascinating microvascular paradox in chronic fatigue. It turns out many patients suffer from microcirculatory dysfunction. Essentially, the tiny blood vessels just failed to drop off oxygen to the tissues effectively. This perfectly explains why someone might feel utterly breathless and exhausted, even when a pulse oximeter on their finger shows a perfectly normal 99% blood oxygen saturation and their lungs are working flawlessly. The oxygen is in the blood, it's just not reaching the actual tissue that needs it.
And finally, Section 5, how to restore your energy. Let's talk about multimodal fixes for exhaustion.
So, what do we actually do about all of this? We need multimodal fixes to rebuild your energy from the ground up, and we have to start with the foundation. You absolutely cannot fix cellular energy without fixing your sleep. And it's about architecture, not just logging hours. Consistency is huge here. Anchoring your wake time strictly synchronizes your circadian clock. Getting 10 to 15 minutes of direct morning sunlight tells your cortisol to wake you up, while cutting blue light 2 hours before bed lets your melatonin naturally rise. Keep your bedroom dark and cool around 65 degrees because your core body temperature biologically has to drop to enter deep sleep. And skip the nightcap. Alcohol might make you pass out, but it shatters your sleep architecture and completely ruins your sleep efficiency.
Now, we also have to rule out mechanical airway issues like obstructive sleep apnea, or OSA. If your airway collapses while you sleep, your brain violently jolts you awake just so you don't suffocate. This heavily fragments your sleep and completely blocks you from reaching the deep N3 sleep stage. And N3 is absolutely crucial. That is when your body repairs cellular damage and flushes out metabolic waste from the brain. If you have OSA, CPAP therapy is non-negotiable. It acts as a pneumatic splint to keep your airway open so that real physical restoration can finally happen.
Next up is nutritional optimization, because the standard modern diet triggers a vicious glycemic cycle. High glycemic index foods, think white bread, pasta, sugary cereals, they cause massive, unnatural insulin surges. That surge inevitably overshoots, leading to a reactive sugar crash. That's your classic 3 p.m. afternoon slump right there. By swapping those out for low-GI foods like steel-cut oats, leafy greens, and lean proteins, you're providing stable, sustained fuel directly to your mitochondria without the exhausting roller coaster ride.
Now, if you are dealing with severe fatigue or long COVID, that traditional push-through-the-pain exercise mentality is actually biologically harmful. Instead, you need the clinical pacing protocol. Step 1, find your energy envelope. You have to track your daily energy limits and strictly stay within them. Step 2, use a heart rate monitor. This ensures you stay well below your anaerobic threshold so you don't trigger a systemic crash. And step 3, micro rests. Break your tasks into small 5 to 10 minute chunks, followed immediately by 2 minutes of complete horizontal rest.
And I want to emphasize that the future of fatigue treatment is incredibly exciting right now. Science is moving so fast to repair cellular damage at the literal source. We're looking at emerging therapies like BC07, currently in clinical trials to neutralize the autoantibodies that mess up oxygen delivery. There's IVO21, a novel mitochondrial stabilizer designed to protect those intercristae from degrading. And then there's photobiomodulation, which uses near-infrared light to safely penetrate tissues and stimulate the mitochondria to ramp up ATP production. We are finally moving away from just managing the symptoms to actually treating the underlying biology.
Before we wrap up, I do need to deliver a very quick, very crucial safety warning. While most fatigue is chronic and manageable over time, you can never, ever ignore certain red flags. If your fatigue is suddenly accompanied by chest pain or pressure, sudden shortness of breath, a severe headache, unusual bleeding, or rapid, unexplained weight loss, you need to seek immediate emergency medical care. These are signs of acute, life-threatening events like a heart attack, a stroke, or a severe infection.
Well, we have covered an immense amount of ground today, peeling back the layers from everyday tiredness all the way down to the cristae of your mitochondria. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to consider about your own biological health. Take a hard look at your habits, your sleep architecture, and how your body is truly reacting to stress. Ask yourself, are you just tired, or is your cellular battery actively draining? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I highly encourage you to use this knowledge to start reclaiming your energy today.